Great, welcome. Hi, everyone. So wonderful to see you all back there on the screen. We also have a nice lively group here in person, and we also have in our audience, we have our councilwoman from Arcadia over to this side, not that side, April Verlado. Whenever I point, it points this way on the screen. So I am Sylvia Ramos, and I am the manager here for Coldwell Banker Dynasty for all of you lovely people. I have a really good friend here, Rocky, who's one of the volunteers in patrol over in Arcadia, which we serve as well here under the regime of Captain Colleen Flores when she was in Arcadia. And we have some special guest speakers, guests as well. So thank you. I'd like to go ahead and begin. I know that here also my friend Colleen Flores is a very humble woman. She's a very, I believe that in my eyes and in my heart and soul, that she's a very strong woman. And that's one of the reasons why I invited her to be here. She is extremely well-spoken. She is such a professional, and she's tough. She's really, I mean, I hope I can say this, you know, and I don't get in trouble, but she's really a badass cop. She really is. When you see her with her gun and her uniform and her badge, it's like, whoa. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm sorry, Madam Councilwoman, but we have a powerhouse of women here. So, and then she has Holly. Holly's here, her community services officer as well. So I'm going to start off by introducing Captain Colleen Flores. Colleen Flores was appointed as captain of Laverne for the police department in January of 2018. She came to Laverne 23 years with from the Arcadia Police Department, where she ranked as a lieutenant. Captain Flores commands the operations division and includes patrol, the training division, a regional SWAT team. Yeah, that's right, SWAT team. Homeless engagement team, and the special events team. She also oversees the administration division, where she encompasses investigations, the dispatch center, community services, and the records division. Other assignments during Captain Flores' career have included commander of operations, investigations, field training, jail services, West San Gabriel Valley and Anti-Crime Task Force, public information officer, and incident commander on various critical incidents. Captain Flores served on the board as president of the San Gabriel Valley Peace Officers Association, a nonprofit organization for law enforcement, networking, and training. Prior to becoming a police officer, Captain Flores was police cadet at the Chino Police Department. I love Chino Police Department. Yeah, and a police explorer at the Upland Police Department. In 2018, Captain Police Flores complemented the California Police Officer Standards and Training Command College program, earning a graduate certificate from the University of San Diego for law enforcement command, specializing in adaptive decision-making. She possesses a Master's of Organizational Leadership degree from Woodbury University and a Bachelor of Business Services, Business Management degree from the University of Phoenix. She is married and has a 12-year-old daughter and 2 adult stepsons, who is serving his 10th year in the United States Army. Well, my hat goes off to the service and everybody who has served in the military. I'm not going to take my hat completely off because I have a hat hair. But anyways, please join me in giving Captain Colleen Flores a very large welcome. Oh, no, you're welcome.
Thank you. I do have, despite my job, I have a tendency to be, my voice doesn't carry. So if you can't hear me, can you please let me know, especially those of you on the screen. What a great introduction. I'm not badass. I happen to, this feels like coming home. I will tell you that. 23 years working at Arcadia and with the community. Oh my gosh, it feels good to be back. Although I do love Laverne, I have to say that. So Sylvia reached out to me. She was a volunteer when I used to work there, and I enjoyed working with her, meeting her family. And over the years, we've had some conversations, and she reached out to me to specifically talk about a couple topics. But if you guys have any questions, I'm certainly willing to answer. And I'll start off with the first one, which was homelessness. And I know it affects everybody. And then I'll go into safety for the positions that you guys work in. And this is why I brought my community services officer with me. She does our neighborhood watch programs, our business watch programs that we just started. We're all prepping to get the gold line to our town in 2024, like it was here in 2016. So she's very valuable in that and has some good experience and safety tips too. So I even get tired of hearing myself talk. So it'll be better that we break it up. So to start off, and before I start, does anybody have any specific questions? Okay, so for the homelessness, as we all have seen this incredible increase over the last several years, it's really important that everybody knows the perception of what you guys see on the streets is reality, but it's important that everybody understands what you don't see in the background that's being done. And a lot of that is with our elected officials, our state officials, our council members, our city managers. There's so many committees in the background that don't get any recognition for trying to find a long-term solution. So what we see, because I'm a community member too, is when you're driving by, you see what looks like a homeless person with their stuff either blocking an entryway or it doesn't look very pretty, and you kind of want them to not be there and you're part of the town. So that's where the police get involved. That's why we always get the calls for that. But in the longer term, if our residents of LA County can have some patience, I have a good amount of faith that our leaders in our county are working really hard to provide housing, more services, more mental health, anything that they can get their hands on. So, but on a daily aspect, when you're driving around and you see it, especially when you guys are going to work, we get the calls. So our average calls, we get average 4 a day in Laverne. Laverne is 8 square miles. It's 33,000 residents. On a scale of compared to Arcadia, Temple City, it's really similar, just a little smaller. Same types of calls for service, same great communities, same great involvement from our businesses and our community members, but all have that same concern. What happened overnight? It looks like we, tripled in homelessness. So with that, just what we did, it doesn't mean that every city has this. The best thing to do is to create a specialized team for police officers and pull them out of their regular assignments and give them a full-time assignment in homeless engagement, because that's where we get the biggest results. But these smaller cities, it's too expensive. We understand that. So bigger cities like Pasadena, Santa Monica, they have full-time homeless teams. So years ago, I was very fortunate to help start a homeless team in Arcadia, and it resulted actually just from a phone call I got from when I was a watch commander. This resident called in and she said, "I'm not complaining about the homeless. I know that they exist. I'm complaining that every time I walk out to my carport next to my car, a homeless person has defecated next to my car." And I thought, that is such a legitimate complaint. I mean, such a reasonable statement that she's very aware that the homeless aren't going to go anywhere. But I mean, you shouldn't have to deal with that getting into your car every day. So I was really lucky that I asked my supervisor at the time if we could start figuring this out. What's our plan? And this is before the Gold Line came in. And so we were really lucky, and we got a volunteer team that wanted to engage with the homeless. Not enforcement is one aspect, but engagement is really where you get things done. So with that, I took that team concept and came to Laverne, and that's where we spend extra time. So these officers work overtime and they come in and they just try to get to know them, because the first step for us is trust. They don't trust law enforcement. So we change them out of their uniforms. They have just polo shirts, they have pants, they have their gear just in case something happens, but we needed to build trust. So the second part of it, and you had asked about our relationship with social services. LA County has a Department of Mental Health, and almost all agencies in LA County has a social worker assigned to the police department on a full-time basis. So they can go out with officers when they come across homeless and try and engage them, gain trust, and get them to accept services. And it's not 24 hours a day. That's where it's a challenge for us, is because for police officers, we see homeless 24 hours a day throughout our job, but we only have a social service worker, Monday through Friday for a few hours. So that takes a little bit of time. Where I work, we don't use the Department of Mental Health in LA County. We have a contract with Tri-City, and so does Pomona, and so does Claremont. So we have a similar concept that they come out, but what we're learning is we have far more homeless than we have services available, and we have far more services available than homeless are willing to accept. That's kind of this weird, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's tough. So what we've been doing is we go and take time to introduce ourselves with the social services worker and meet every single homeless person that we can in our town. We did the same thing in Arcadia. create this book. And we just recently created this form last week that we're doing. We're trying to get more data, trying to forward think. You know, we know that more homeless are coming to LA County. We know that the Gold Line brings more in throughout LA County. What can we do? And so we created this form that we're going to start in a couple of weeks, and our homeless team is going to go out and really dig deep into what they need. So they have to get into the system. It's called CES. And what we're learning when we dive into this, we're finding out that some of them have accepted services and are on a waiting list. Some of them flat out refuse services, and some of them have accepted and have gone to maybe Union Station, so they have a bed to sleep in, but then they don't follow the rules and they get kicked out, which means they go to the bottom of the list for services. So between Arcadia and Laverne, I've learned a lot more than I ever thought I would about homeless. But I mean, we're trying everything we can to find out what would help them. You know, what are their issues? Why are you homeless? You know, is it a mental disorder? Is it financial? Is it drugs? Anything, right? And the other thing we did is, and we're doing it too, is why are you here? Why are you in Arcadia? Why are you in Temple City? Why are you in Laverne? Why are you coming to this area? And in Arcadia, the common answer was, now this is after the Gold Line had opened, many of them live in LA, but they would come spend the day in Arcadia because they would say that's the first nice town that they could come to and not get assaulted by other homeless, not get robbed by other homeless. And so, which is a great credit to the town of Arcadia, but that doesn't help the residents when they're calling and saying, oh my gosh, what's going on with these? Yes, yeah. So, and their numbers increased dramatically overnight. I mean, they went from like six or 16 to 106 in just 4 years. But all of LA County went from 35,000 to 54,000 homeless. So you can't blame everything on the Gold Line. That's not fair. That's not what I'm trying to say. But the increase is just coming overall. So I'm going way into depth on it because the problem that we have is trying to educate everybody so they can understand when they call, there's a guy asleep on a bench and I don't like it. And so our dispatcher takes the call and sends an officer. It's not illegal to sleep on a bench. If it's in someone's private yard, of course, absolutely. But so I try to put it into perspective. So let's say I go out for a run, which you know this is falsity because I don't run. So we're just pretending here. So let's say I go out for a run. I didn't shower that morning. Now I'm a sweaty mess. My hair is a hot mess. I haven't brushed my teeth. I did. This is my hypothetical. Okay. And so I'm tired and I want to sleep on a bench. And I get woken up by an officer because somebody called and said, she's an eyesore and she's sleeping on a bench. I mean, how horrible would that be? And that's kind of what's happening with some of the homeless. There are some that absolutely we have to do enforcement. They steal, they are blocking entryways, they're drug addicts, all different kinds of stuff. But there are some that they just want to spend a day in a nice town and they might go back to their home out of town at night. So that's what we created this form to see if we could get the travelers to where a better home than in the town during the day where they appear to be an eyesore. So on that note, do you have any questions about that before I go on? I know it's a lot of information. One of the biggest things that we learned that is so helpful in removing homeless from the street, and I say removing because I mean, whether it's accepting services or getting them back to a different home or just getting them in a safe environment, is our business owners. We need our business owners willing to sign the trespass form, because after we've tried to get them services, have them connected to social workers, they refuse. Then we go from engagement to enforcement. And the key is the business owners. So we had, if you stay with the enforcement, then it avoids the camps coming up, which is what you had mentioned to me. So we had a vacant business in town. It was vacant for some time, huge property in town, and the homeless just started taking over that property. And so what we did was we eventually tracked down the property management company and asked them to sign the no trespass form. Now, if you're aware, in LA County, our head DA right now is not filing any misdemeanor crimes, but that's not going to stop us from doing our job yet. We're still enforcing the law. And when they sign that form, we've already tried, remember, with the social services, we've already tried to give them all the help that they want, or that they're willing to accept. Now we have to do enforcement. And so we had our whole team, I pulled the whole detective bureau out. Everybody stopped working on what they should be working on, which is criminal cases, and going out, and we did this sweep of one day to get out. And it really resonated, because a lot of residents were calling in, they were calling into council and saying, what happened? It was a nightmare. You didn't want to go over there. Now all of a sudden it's clean. So we explained this trespass form. And so then we went to all of our big businesses in town, because of course they just try to go somewhere else. And most of the big businesses signed the trespass form. But now what's happened is we've had a few of the smaller businesses that just don't want to get involved in that. They don't want to have anybody arrested, which is okay. But then I have no legal authority to take them from the back of your property, the front of your property, as a business owner. You know, it's in public property, so I can't enforce it. So we have a little bit of, it could be a little politically sensitive, but it's your property, you do what you want, right? So that's a little bit of a synopsis background, but I think, I hope everybody just has faith in our city leaders and our elected officials, because they really are trying to get them housed. But I found for our long-term Laverne homeless, a lot of them grew up there. They have ties there. Our community is very kind to them. They give them money, they give them food, which is not what we want them to do. We want to connect them to more permanent services, but we all have a heart, right? So, and that's what the majority of these types of communities are. They just want to give. And so those people will probably never be housed. They will probably always be homeless, but they also typically don't cause problems. You know, we know each other by name. We probably say, okay, Bob, you're scaring some of the people over here because you need to put your pants on, you know, that type of stuff. I mean, it happens. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But I was going to move from the whole homeless topic to safety, but I don't want to skip over anything when it comes to, I know we had talked about a little bit, you guys come across homeless when you're showing houses or at your businesses even. Do you have any questions or anything I can expand on that?
Maybe
Yes,
from
Kelly.
the back end perspective, you said, you know, because what we see is the person on the bench or urinating somewhere on the fence. From the police perspective, when they get a call, what happens on the back end? Do they actually take a report, or do you just let them go and say, you know, do somewhere else, or what kind of enforcement is being done when it's not just a sleeper, it's someone who's actually maybe defecated and there's some sort of video, or there's some sort of, because I have a homeless that sleeps right in the alley back here, and you know, we make calls and then, you know, they come back.
Yeah,
and maybe they gotta go somewhere for a few days and they come back.
it's a really good question. So there's a lot of different answers to that. So depending on the time of day and how busy your police are, they have to prioritize their calls, right? So they might temporarily fix it by saying you need to move. Probably not documented, no rest, just move along. I'm solving the problem because I have a crime that I need to take care of. That's why I was saying it's so beneficial to have a full-time team. But in reality, I know the cities don't have money to hire extra people to do that. However, what you could do is try to call, maybe even start with the watch commander and say, I need a longer term resolution. You're not complaining. I just want to get this longer term resolution. What we do is we go out and we walk the property and we recommend no trespassing signs. You would think how ridiculous, you know, a $1.39 no trespassing sign wouldn't work. It totally works. I had to do it at my own city hall, right outside my city manager's office, because he's got this incredible cubby outside his office where everybody loves to sleep at night and it's safe for them. But the poor workers coming in the morning are coming across all the homeless. And so all we did was we put up a tiny gate that anybody could jump over, and we just put up a no trespassing sign. And that was about 8 months ago. We haven't had a single issue. So, but what you want is that someone of an expert to come help you figure that out. So if you call, because you're in Temple City, you'd have to call the sheriff's department and see if they have a team that can help you make it more secure and make it so people aren't sleeping on your property. That was the other thing we did on the other side of our city hall was we put up a fence, because that was they were getting the same thing. And we're installing cameras. The other way to really do it is what we did with one of the businesses that has a bunch of fast food restaurants and dental offices. And this, you have to get your property manager to agree and all of the owners of these businesses to agree. Bright lights at night and obnoxious music at night, and they won't stay. And so,
Unless they're happy ones.
well, I know. What's funny is the music that they chose in this complex was 80s rock.
Oh,
Apparently, the homeless do not like 80s rock. It probably has nothing to do with their music. It's probably just because it's on all night while they're trying to sleep. So if you go to San Diego, and I notice these things now because half of my life is about homeless, which is fine. But if you go to San Diego and you stop at the rest stop on the way down, initially you hear all the seagulls. And if you pay attention, you look around, there's not a single bird. It's speakers screaming seagull noises. That's how they got rid of all of their homeless that were at all of the rest stops, because rest stops are great. People are there for longer than a few minutes. They can get money from you, they can get food from you. They have a shelter. No one's really going to bother them because you're just traveling through, but such creativity. So that's really where it's at too. So you could go to the sheriff's department, or you could just get creative on your own. And unfortunately, it's a little bit of money, but it's a lot for a little bit of money. If you put sound and bright lights, rip out any bushes, benches. I know benches are great in towns, but they just become magnets for them to sleep on.
And I become a nuisance to my neighbors that are living here.
Well, and that's why you want everybody on the same page. You definitely don't want to upset, but they might be having the same issue. Until you talk to them, you just don't know, and you might be able to come up with a resolution. I hope that helps. Seagulls, annoying seagulls. I like 80s rock. Do you guys have any other questions on that?
On homelessness, before we jump topics on safety?
April, do you have a question that you would want to ask, just to enlighten the group here based on the topic that you touched on that would help the group?
Well, I know Laverne has entered into it. They're in a group, the Tri-City group with Claremont and Pomona. So when you're engaging with your homeless population, you're able to offer them shelter in Pomona. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a couple beds in Pomona. We have a couple beds at Union Station.
Okay.
But my personal officers that I get to work with all the time, we developed an incredible relationship with the Pomona homeless team, because they have so many more homeless than we do. And so we really try to be creative with them. We don't want to step on their toes because Tri-City represents all three agencies. So we work with them a lot to say, we don't want to fill up beds. Laverne has 2 beds assigned to just Laverne. But if our partners at Pomona need help too, well, we just try to help each other. And Tri-City has been really helpful in that. I'm so used to working with the Department of Mental Health, and they have a lot of different ways to offer. So it'd be great if they could all work together, but they do through the CES system. They can all read everything in the CES system. And that's where they see what beds are available and that type of thing.
So do you have to go through CES to place in Pomona, or you just call Pomona?
If it's
through Tri-City?
if it's a call for service and one of my officers is on it, we have direct contact. We just call Tri-City and then we go there. It's very convenient. But if we had somebody walk in our front door of the police department and say, I'm homeless and I want a bed, they would be at the bottom of that CES list, the intake list. So it's almost better to go for a call for service. So occasionally we get lucky, just like in Arcadia. Occasionally we got really lucky. You get some people that would want, and it just felt like this joy of, oh my gosh, somebody wants a bed, and because it doesn't happen very often. So, but yeah, it has to, the quickest route for us is if we get a call for service and you have an officer, because Tri-City will come out immediately and help you with it. And that's why this form I was telling you about, we have some specific questions that they asked us to add to this form for when we do try to place people that we didn't think of, is what disabilities do you have? Because some shelters can't take certain disabilities. And so we're like, great, we'll get that one covered, trying to do what we can.
What's your homeless count?
Oh, it's low. We're at like 11 permanent, but during the day we have a ton. So and because the city is so small, they all go to the same area, which is all the business district. So we get 100, an average about 130 calls a month on them. This is a hard part about homeless. It's super expensive.
So for the 11 that live there, you get 130 calls
A month. Yeah, and that's because it's 11 is that are I would call them permanent, Laverne, because that's how they do they do the count at night when everybody's sleeping. So we have 11 that are basically sleeping there, and we know all of them. It's the ones that are travelers through the day. they know to come to Laverne because our residents will give them money and they'll help. Not all of them, but some will. And it's a nice community. They won't get attacked or robbed or any of that stuff. In fact, Tri-City is located in Pomona, and that's where the services are. And when we try to take some of them to Tri-City, they won't go because they get attacked or robbed in Pomona. Not every time. I'm not trying to give Pomona a bad rap, but there's just so many homeless that they're scared. They feel safe in Laverne. So yeah, 125 to 135 calls a month. And the hard thing with that, and this is what I was trying to describe, is that it's super expensive for us to help try and help the homeless. I only have 3 police officers on during the day, plus a supervisor. So 4 times a day, they're not working on anything but homeless, and it's super time consuming. So it would be great if we had different specialized teams, but that costs more money. You know, it costs everybody money. It costs the city money. It costs the community center money. If you do it, it costs a lot. I mean, I don't want to bore you guys, but but yeah, 125 calls is a lot.
And I've heard that the crime against homeless, by homeless against homeless, like crime on crime,
Yeah,
has like shot up in the last couple of years as well.
yeah. Those you see more where they have the tent camping. We haven't had too many of those because they all go to their certain areas. It's kind of, my territory. I want to stand in front of this store and get some money, and I want to stand in front of the store and get some food in my town. But yeah, where those encampments are, it gets a little tough. They're like little apartment complexes.
So, in Laverne, you guys have been able to keep out the encampment.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you guys have wash areas like Arcadia?
Not like Arcadia has. Yeah, we have some, not nearly.
I mean, Arcadia, Monrovia, that's where we see a lot of encampments because it's in that no man's land. It's a little harder to get to, a little harder to see. So,
We did have a couple that made their house on top of a business. On the roof. They tried to be quiet, but eventually somebody said, "What is going on up there?" They get creative.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions on the homeless before we move on?
Would you like to
No,
introduce
I
yourself,
just
sir?
wanted to.
Oh, hi.
I'm new with the whole homeless thing,
Oh,
but we came up with some ideas about shipping containers and putting ideas together for transitional homes
yes.
where they can come in and you can maybe teach them a skill or put them in a home medical situation where they get treatment. So we're trying to figure out how can we partner with maybe some of the people, we'll have to talk with April a little bit about it, but maybe some of the people that are interested in this project, and how can we connect and talk about it and see how we can implement it. It'll be a quick solution because putting the containers together is not hard.
Yeah.
It's not like building a house or whatever, but it's just finding the land away from maybe not so secluded, but secluded enough where neighbors won't feel like they're being attacked or overran, and be a clean system and clean setup and with medical people there. So I just wanted to know how can we connect with those kind of people.
Well, April could probably speak better on that than I have,
Okay.
but we do have projects like that going on with the tiny home project, and they have those facilities. But in LA County, you could reach out to the housing authority in LA. Everybody's looking for help with those, but to find a vacant area in LA County, because that's common, is everybody wants some house, but not in my backyard.
Yeah.
So Pomona has about 400 that they're working on, and it's working out for them. But out of respect to the other neighboring agencies, we all try to, we don't go to Pomona and dump them there because that's not fair to Pomona.
Right.
So yeah, it's a good theory, but like you probably have more on that than I would when it's like the tiny home project or.
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest part is getting a city, their residents to be okay with having shelter in their town or any kind of, even low-income housing. People get upset.
Yeah.
And say, that's not in our neighborhood, that'll decrease our property values, that'll cause blight that'll, attract more homeless, attract low income, all that kind of stuff. So it's all the stigma and kind of bias that comes with that type of housing where like the containers, shipping containers, I've seen a lot of designs, like a lot of companies are coming out with them. They're beautiful. They do a really nice job with them. And I saw some of your stuff that, yeah, they'd be great. But
We also find that when we do find them housing, whether it's a tiny home or a bed, many of them do not want to follow the rules. So trying to build a homeless shelter with no rules, you got to find a really good investor that's willing to do that. It's tough. Yeah.
I have a question for you, sir.
Yeah.
Is this private investment or is this like your own money or how is this being put together?
I was gonna put up my own money. Things worked out pretty good for me for a period of time. So, and I have a friend who helped me during a period of time, and he became homeless. And I tried to get help for him, but he just kept refusing help because he didn't trust the system, didn't trust doctors. So it became more mental, and he needed mental help. So this is kind of a way for me to give back. I don't know much about it, but when they came up with the idea, I thought it was great. I seen one that the city did, and it was a bunch of beds in a room, and I went to him and I said, "Why don't you say?" "Oh no," he said, "people are crazy. They'd be, making noise and fighting and arguing." So I thought the shipping containers by the individual, and not only that, you can do it with families. And then you got a chance, like you say, they may not follow the rules, but maybe some will.
Yes.
Maybe some will go to a class. Some will take a job. Some will take training on medical connected, So, and I'm thinking if I could find a piece of land and, build maybe a couple and, show the city what's being done and how it works.
Yeah.
I've met some people at UCLA and they have training doctors, and the doctors would come and maybe we can get them to have get maybe classes or get credits for coming in and doing work. The homeless. It's just a lot of little things here and there.
And I didn't mention that when we do get them beds and get them into Tri-City or Hope for Home, the shelters, that's the first thing they do is find out if they can work, will they be willing to work, and they'll get them in their niche. They do that. It's not many will follow all the way through. But every once in a while you get one that is so ready to change. Yeah. And they do that. It's not just a bed. That's their goal, is to get them on their own. And we have had some success rate. Anybody? Yeah.
do you find that in Pomona, they have a lot of vacancy in their shelters? Like at Hope for Home?
I don't know the stats. I don't know that I don't remember hearing anything about it ever being completely full. Usually in the winter, the wintertime it's full, but they also have many rules. And so they have a turnover there. So yeah, I don't know that wintertime is usually when it's really cold is when those beds get full.
Pomona used to do the winter shelter at the Fairplex, but they're not.
I don't think they do it at the Fairplex anymore, but I don't know.
Well, right now it's detention.
Yes, detention. Yes.
A detention center?
For immigration.
Oh.
The immigrant children are staying there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
There used to be a winter sheltering.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
still here.
I guess no park club shows there for right now. Huh?
So I'll move on to safety if that's okay.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So I am not an expert when it comes to real estate safety, but I am very passionate about people being safe. And I used to do these talks in Arcadia at some of the women that worked at night in the corporate offices. Sometimes they'd be there at night because they're working with China that has different hours. And so they were fearful of coming to their cars. So I'm a big advocate of safety and doing what you need to protect yourself. So when it comes to, you guys showing your houses by yourself, especially as women, it makes me so nervous. It makes me very nervous when I see big posters advertising you and you have these incredible watches and jewelry, and it makes me nervous. So I'm not saying don't be you, but I am saying, you might want to think of being less of a target, because it can happen when they see that.
Especially like the for sale signs in front of the homes and things like
Oh
that.
yeah, you guys are just primary targets. It's men and women too. I mean, but more for the women. So some of the recommendations that we talked about, that we came across for you guys would be, please, I preface this with knowing this is not always possible, but if you can have a meeting prior to meeting at the house, I would try to do that. Whether it's a public place, whether it's your office here, get eyes on those people first, because you'll get a good feeling for them. And if they're out to do bad, they won't show up at the house. I understand that's not always possible, and especially in this market when they're going so quick, but it's just one of the recommendations. Whenever you do go show houses or out in the caravans and you guys split up, always let somebody know where you're at all the time. If you can, I recommend putting on your phone the Find My iPhone and have somebody know your location. Or the other app is Life 360. Just share it with somebody so they know where you're at, in case they can't get a hold of you. I don't mean to be Debbie Downer. It's just the world. This is the world I live in. We talked about being mindful of what you wear. On your cell phones, when you have your favorite people that you call, I would recommend that you put emergency numbers in there. So when you dial 911 from your cell phone, it goes to CHP. And CHP then has to transfer it to the local agency. And that is a waste of time. So if you're primarily in Temple City, then you, instead of calling 911, train your brain and your emergency contact to dial the direct number to dispatch to wherever you're at most of the time. And that will help, because although CHP is quick to transfer, sometimes those calls get dropped. So a perfect example would be if you're in Arcadia County and you call 911, CHP will send it to the city of Arcadia, because not everybody knows the difference between the county, unincorporated. City of Arcadia will say, that's not our jurisdiction. Let me send you to Temple City Sheriff's, and guaranteed almost all the time that second transfer will get dropped. So it's just part of it. So if you can, take the time to do that on your phones. And I tell that for my family too, where my mom lives, everybody, personally, try to train yourself not to call 911. When you're walking in the house, if you guys ever know any police officers and you've ever eaten with them anywhere, we always sit in the back of the room. We got to face the door. We got to know what's going on, because at any time something's going to happen. Yeah. You could kind of think that way when you're showing a house. I know the best thing for you guys to do is to go inside and show the house. I would always let them take the lead. Let them go ahead of you. This is when your radar's up. You guys will know. Little hairs will be standing at the back of your neck. Something doesn't look right. I'm not saying we're judging people. I'm saying you guys are experiencing and when something's not right. And most of the time when you talk to victims of crimes, they knew it ahead of time. They just couldn't put their finger on it, or they were afraid of being judgmental. They were afraid of, well, I shouldn't be judging this person just because X. You guys know best. You deal with people all the time. So let them lead, let them walk in the house, let them get in the door, know your exits in every one of these houses. I would, especially if I would never go into a basement. I know we don't have a ton of basements out here, but we got some, but I would never go into a basement with anybody. Have fun down there. Let me know what you think when you come up. It's just, if you have people showing up that are unexpected, I would be very leery of that. And I think that agents are usually very respectful of each other and saying, I've got somebody that's coming by, whatever. But if you have somebody just showing up because of that for sale sign, it's okay to be rude. Your boss will forgive you because we want you safe. It's okay to be rude. You know what? I just did my last showing. Make an appointment with me. Shut that door and get out of there. You just know. You'll know when to do that. Don't be afraid to be rude. I know that our parents did not teach us that way, but for safety reasons, it's a good thing to be rude sometimes for your own safety. So I mentioned Following Your Instinct. One of my favorite books that I've mentioned to a lot of victims over the years is called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. Have you read it? It's a great book. It's sad, but it's a great book. But, right. Yes. Yes, yeah. I gave one to my niece and she was afraid to read it. So I guess I've given her too many safety talks. It's not scary. It's a great, it's all it talks about is listening to your instincts. It's called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. It's an easy read. It's a great story. It's that thing I was telling you about when it's okay to be rude. You wish you would have instead of being a victim. So if you're into reading or you can listen to it, it's a great book. And I'm in this world, I'm assuming you guys are familiar with the Beverly Carter case. Are you? Beverly Carter Foundation. So Beverly Carter was a real estate agent in Arkansas. Called her husband. I got one more showing, 5:30, and then I'll be home. And then a couple came, it ended up being a guy, and then they kidnapped her for ransom. The ransom didn't go through. So they said, let's kill her because we want to, hide all of our evidence. And eventually they got caught. But now this poor family has lost their mother and wife, and it's horrible, horrible, horrible. So there's on her website, the children started a website for her. It's BeverlyCarterFoundation.org. They have a lot of tips on there too, way more than I could give because of your world. So it's free. You can look into that if that interests you. And then the last thing, this is where I was going to bring Holly in for this because she has experience as a real estate agent. She is our community service officer that I told you about that does help us get our neighborhood watch safe, our business watch safe. And she's got some great experience. So she's going to talk a little bit about weapons and whatever else she wants to talk about. So I'm going to introduce Holly.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting us, and it's great that you guys are taking the step to learn more about how you can stay safe. So before I started with the police department 6 years ago, I had just gotten my real estate license. I was so excited. It was my new career, and I went to show a house in Laverne. It was just a rental, but I was showing it to my in-laws. So I was taught, you go in, you open the doors, you open the blinds, make it look pretty. I did that. And as I was entering the master bedroom, it felt, like Captain said, it felt off. Something felt wrong. As I walk into the master bathroom, the shower was completely wet, freshly wet, water beads dripping down. And I thought, oh no, get out. So I did just that. I got out and I waited until my in-laws got there, and I told them what had happened. I never called the police, which is what I should have done. But they were able to clear the house, and we locked up and we left, and we didn't go back. They didn't take the house because obviously there was somebody, I don't know if they were homeless. I don't know if it had been a previous renter or if it was even the owner. Never got the information, but it, like she said, it felt off. After that, my fiance said, that's it, no more, you're never going alone. So anytime I did a showing or if I had an open house, I would have my lovely fiance sitting somewhere in the background, and people probably were afraid of him because, what's this guy doing here? But it was just one of those things that it jarred us. So a lovely lady that I showed another rental to in Glendora walked in, and she handed me a pink little plastic device. And I said, well, what is this? And she said, her company, her business was women's safety. And it was a small taser with a flashlight attachment. And she said, I want you to have this. She says, I give this to every realtor I come across, and I want you to have it. And you keep it on you. And, there's a mechanism so that you can't hurt yourself accidentally. But it was just such a wonderful thing to realize that there are options that aren't guns. Nothing wrong with guns. But, not everybody can get a license to carry. Some can, but, there are things that you can do to keep yourself safe. And that's what it all comes down to. Like she said, keep people aware of where you are, who's coming, what time you're going to be there, what time you expect to leave. Those are really important things to know. I always, when I'm going for a run or if I was going to be showing a house, I would let people know what I'm wearing just in case. But that's my experience with showing houses. And I unfortunately have let my real estate license go because
I was just gonna recruit
I'm
you.
in law enforcement now.
We're gonna have to talk about that.
One of the things that I wanted to touch on with the homeless in the back, you talked about your neighbors. That's one of the biggest things that when we talk about Business Watch is getting together with your neighbors and talking about it, because you may be experiencing something they may be having the same issue, and together you might be able to work to create some sort of an action item that you can then take to your law enforcement partners and work together. So definitely work with your neighbors, because they are in the same boat that you are. Thank you so much for
That's
your
awesome,
time.
Holly.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.
I just wanted to add on that, because I told my chief, asked if it was okay to come here to another town. And he did want me to share with you, not that it's everybody's interested, but just sharing that the LA County Sheriff, Villanueva, he provides carrying concealed weapons in LA County. And he has given some to real estate agents for their own safety. So if that interests you, you just go online. It's all online at the Sheriff's Department website. It's a whole other level. I get it. Not everybody is comfortable with weapons. I love the taser idea. At the end of the day, you're not trying to overpower this person. You're just trying to get away. And so anything that just gives you a few extra seconds to get out is really what it is. So. That's just a little bit extra if that interests anybody, but that's all we got.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next note. So do you think that it would behoove this group? I do have the Temple City Sheriff's number on my phone, and Deputy Kistner Sullivan is a community officer. Do you think that would be also a good idea to invite him to come over and talk about that end of it, the concealed weapon and permit? And
They
things like
probably could. That's not a bad idea. That person might even be able to help you with the homeless in the back as far as a longer term solution. That's a good idea. And then also from that community service officer, you want to get the direct phone number to dispatch. So if they'll give it to you.
Yeah.
When I was saying, instead of calling 911, you don't want the generic
Right.
phone number that is transfer here and press 1 for that. And you want the direct number to dispatch when you're programming your phone.
that?
So she could probably, or he or she, I'm sorry, could help with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions anyone has?
Thank you guys for having us.
Any questions, guys?
Appreciate it.
Any questions in the group? Michael, your antennas are up. I see a question coming up.
No, great.
No?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Annie's, do you have a question? No? Helen? You're okay. Everybody's okay. Melissa? Melissa?
Everybody's being called out.
If someone get robbed, like I was in robbed twice,
Oh.
and then if are there any way if I am allowed to carry something like weapon or something when I go out from there any policy on laws?
So you just have to get the concealed carry permit from the LA County Sheriff, and he authorizes them. So up until recently, most people, so if you live in San Bernardino County, almost anybody can get a concealed carry permit, almost anybody. They just have to pass a mini background. LA County for years, very, very few people were given it. It was usually like jewelry store owners that might be followed home from their work would get them. But recently, the sheriff is giving them the restrictions have been lifted. So you could go to that website for the sheriff's department. And like she was saying, maybe their community service officer could even help you guys further with that. That's all you need is a permit.
Right.
And that they just make sure you go through a training class, and then you legally can carry one.
Because I think that it's been in years. I mean, the first time robbed is like 2006, and then in the parking lot is in April. The second time is our parking lot here. The same thing.
Ooh.
Like a few years
I'm
ago.
sorry.
Full disclosure there, Mr. Chang.
Yeah. So what I do, I'm sorry that you went
They're
through that.
targeting Asian women.
Well, so
I think they're targeting us because, we when we go out, we have nice cars. It's not showing very good purse.
So the one thing I recommend for when you guys are coming to and from, and I used to do this when I was teaching those classes I mentioned before, is we get really busy. And so we walk to our cars on our phone like this. You got to stop doing that. You don't put your phone and your keys in your purse, because if they take that, now you have nowhere to go. So if you can, you put your keys in your pocket and your phone in your pocket, and you walk like you're 10 feet tall. You put your shoulders back and you make eye contact with people. If you do any research on any of the suspects that are willing to talk with police, they do not target people that are confident and look at people. So if your head is down, you're a prime target. even if you're just going to your car, but you're usually, you know, got all your work stuff, we got all our luggage. I mean, whatever you're carrying, it's the simplest thing you can do is just walk like you're 10 feet tall, shoulders back, confident. Anybody moves, you make eye contact with them, they're like, oh, I'm not gonna mess with her. It's really helpful.
The person when we dropped, I was with the lady.
Oh no.
And then I was helping her go to turn office. So we were both facing to the building, and then some guy tried to grab me from the back and then drag me on the ground. I
Oh,
couldn't be successfully get my purse, but I was holding him really badly.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then we left the shirt and then jumped to the car. There was a guy there reading, you know, the Hawaii supermarket that they're so they, yeah, so they're so easy to go to the freeway. We never get caught.
Well, one of the valuable things that I've learned, that Rocky and I have learned volunteering for Arcadia PD, is that we put on our big girl panties on and we use our big girl voice. So
Big boy panties.
big boy panties for you. So now I've kept that practice. So when I open the door at our property, and since then, because that's a whole other topic, but I have been a person of experience many times. So my husband got his license and he is there with me evenings and weekends. So when I enter the property, I say, hello, Realtor here. Hello, Realtor here, instead of, you know, Arcadia Volunteer and Patrol here. Anybody here? You know, so we do that. And then you'll hear something, you know, you'll hear some noise like that. You'll hear the back window open or something. And I've experienced that many times. I've called Arcadia PD, say, you know, I'm one of the volunteers. I'm a Realtor right now. I think there's somebody in the house, and Arcadia PD comes out, and sure enough, there's been somebody in the house. They've had narcotics. The person runs out, grabs their bike, has a backpack, and takes off. So never take it for granted. I had my small children at the time. We went to a house. It was supposed to be vacant. The owner was home. We did not know, but unfortunately, my 10-year-old and my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old at the time still remember the naked person coming out of the shower. You know, so it's funny because they'll still say, Mom, are you a better agent than you were before? And I said, that was not my fault, you know, but things happen. So I am so happy and honored to have been able to have this group here, to have Captain Colleen Flores here, to have Holly here. We're talking after this. and to have the voice here under our roof here at Coldwell Banker Dynasty and Temple City, an agency that cares and an agency with a big heart. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Great job.
Be safe, everyone.